want to welcome everybody to Inside the Cardinal Playbook, and this is a happy edition. We got a big win when we went over to Indiana, and Coach going to talk a little bit, lead into this saying, we talked before we got on air, I really thought we were a little bit flat, believe it or not, going into it, but I said it on air, and I'm going to say it here in front of everybody, in front of you. I really thought your team, number one, did a great job adjusting at halftime, and I think as a coaching staff, you guys did a tremendous job of adjusting there. You might want to talk about the difference, and maybe you didn't see it the same way.
No, I did. 8-hour bus trip and a long ways from home, and then the field conditions. I don't think we were maybe ready for those. It's a grass field and it was wet. It wasn't standing water wet, but there was a lot of footing issues and those type of things, and it took us a little bit of time to get used to that. And they came out with a lot of momentum. They came off a big win, their first win in a while the week before, and it was senior day and all those things. So they came out and played with some a higher level of emotion than we did early. And we were fortunate to get into halftime with no score on the scoreboard, even though we'd had the ball inside the 25-yard line 2 different times and didn't convert it into points there. We missed a field goal and then threw an interception at the end of the half. But we really moved the ball well at times in the first half. Didn't turn those into points. And then defensively, I thought we did some good things all game. They had a couple drives throwing the ball down the field in the first half, and we had 2 goal line, two stands inside the 10-yard line. We kept them off the scoreboard, and that was big. But went at halftime and refocused on some things, and they were doing some things defensively that maybe we hadn't seen them do, and offensively a little bit the same way, and adjusted to some things there, and talked to the players about our focus in the second half, and found kind of the key offensively exactly of how we thought we could attack them in the second half, and the players did a great job in the second half of coming out and refocusing and playing with a high level of energy and executing plays up and down the field.
Well, it was kind of interesting. Basically, the way I saw it, and correct me again, but from what my coaching days, it looked like they ran the spread, which everybody does, and but really it was a West Coast offense.
Yeah.
It's the spread with the West Coast offense. Yeah. Everything was a quick 3-step drop, even though it's not 3-step, it's quick boom out of the spread. And you guys did a great job of covering underneath. You want to talk about that for the people?
Yeah, that team, I think they were maybe a little bit beat up on the offensive line as well. So, quick game, in the passing game gives you the opportunity not to have to protect as long.
Right.
And we had got to the quarterback a couple times in the first half. And throughout the game, we saw a lot of 3-step drop or quick game in the passing game. So, we really focused on sitting on routes and sitting on the first move and not worried so much about playing double move routes down the field because, we didn't feel like they were going to have time to get those type of routes off down the field. And we did a good job. They did some really good things. We brought in our dime look with 4 corners in the game.
Which has really helped you this year.
Yeah, it's been really good for us. But they did a nice job of getting in some bunch looks and rubbing guys off routes and, some really good man coverage combinations. It took us a little while to figure them out, but once we got them figured out, we played them very well down the stretch there. And there was a lot of good things, defensively and offensively as well. And in the kicking game, those are tough conditions to play in the kicking game on a surface that was in rough a shape as maybe that one was, with a little bit of a crosswind blowing. Usually you would play with a wind in front of you or a wind behind you. But the way that field set, there was a crosswind, and so the balls are moving a little differently. And I was proud of our return teams for getting every ball covered up, because those things were moving pretty good. And bad hops on grass when you're talking about ruts, playing on a grass field this late in the season that has a little wetness to it. They did a nice job of getting everything covered up and maintaining the possession.
Yeah, I thought Freevert got a little bit of education playing on grass. He's a great kicker. I mean, he's been a tremendous weapon. But, I was trying to defend him. You could tell it was slick. You've already alluded to that. Yeah. But it's a whole different ball game kicking on that grass. And when we get the interception early in the ball game, we take it inside the red zone. Of course, you're going to kick the field goal because we stalled. I mean, it's a given. And I think he was even surprised because it's just like a golf shot. It is like a wedge or 9. It's a totally different approach. Yeah. And I think he shocked himself that he really hit a 9-iron shank.
Exactly. Well, we talked about. I was giving him a hard time yesterday. I said, Warren, it looked like me playing out of the sand over there the other day, and just giving him a hard time about it. But on a field and a surface such as that late in the year, there's high spots and low spots right next to each other, little ruts, and where the turf is torn out, and different than turf where it's a true surface, a true flat surface. So kickers see it probably more than anybody else on the field. And the spot that they wanted to spot the ball on was on a high spot.
Right. And
sometimes if the snap's not perfect, or if the holder's got to adjust at all, he's going to just get it down, and it got put down in a low spot right next to the high spot, and so he didn't hit it as clean as he'd like, and didn't get down underneath the ball as much as he'd like, and left his foot open a little bit, and didn't hit it very good. Happened to him later on too in the game on an extra point that just he didn't get underneath the ball, and
totally different approach.
Yeah, totally different approach because of the surface. The surface is untrue, and different than playing on Bermuda grass fields like you see down south and a lot of the NFL stadiums. When you're playing on a bluegrass field, which is what we were on the other day, those ruts become a lot more pronounced and a lot deeper, and all of those things. Where on Bermuda, you can replace the divot a little bit and make sure the surface is flat. It almost plays like turf, but Warren, we all know what he's about and what he can do, and would we like to have those points? No doubt about it. But he's going to miss some. We just haven't seen him do it in 2 years. That was the first one, the first field goal the other day. That's the first field goal he's missed in his career here that didn't get blocked, or that was within his control.
Yeah.
So we're far from, and I know you're not alluding to this, but we're far from throwing in the towel with him. He's a great kicker, a great kid.
He's a great weapon.
His future is extremely bright.
Yeah. Back to future, and that's what we're all about. Talk about Sean Shelton. I thought he played another great game, but right before half, I got to talk about it. You guys are driving, and the old Sean came up and threw that interception, and I thought you handled it. I was all over looking at you.
Yeah.
And I thought you handled it real well. I knew you were frustrated, and Sean was too. He's played great for the last 5 weeks, and including this week, he played great. They're human beings, and they're still young kids, and I thought you handled that real well. We might want to talk about that.
Yeah, I made the comment. I probably jinxed him because I made the comment last week's show that he hadn't thrown an interception since the first half of the Sioux Falls game, which was, I think, week 4, something like that. And we've thrown the ball a whole lot more lately. And anytime you have that many attempts of throwing the football, you're going to throw interceptions. I mean, look at the best in the game, and I know Drew Brees would like to have some of his back from yesterday's game. That's him trying to make a play, and he, as much as you like to coach it out of him, the nice thing, the great thing about that kid and the type of player he is, that he's going to go out and make plays, and
he's a playmaker.
There's a fine line of how much you try and reel him back in and hold him back. I've come to the realization that he's going to throw interception every now and then. He just is. Every quarterback is, and the thing he gives us on the positive side of it, if he continues on the track he has been for the last 3 or 4 games, is those are going to be few and far between, and he's going to pick his opportunities to make a play. That situation, he'll be the first one to tell you what he did wrong and how he'll fix it in the future. And we'd really like to have the points going into halftime, but with where the game was at, from a coach's standpoint, I never felt the game was in doubt in that game, and just because momentum, and I thought we could do some things against them, and we had marched the ball down the field. It was just a matter of time before that equated to points on the board.
Well, him and Molson, let's talk about Molson. They're becoming quite the combination. And I tell you what, Molson is becoming a handful for everybody to defend. You might want to talk about that.
His length gives him so much. I mean, in his ability to adjust to the football. A 6'3" to 6'4" kid that's 215 or so, and he's a long strider. He's actually faster than what he looks because he's such a long strider. And his ability to go up over guys and take the ball away and those type of things. He's playing with a lot of confidence right now and doing a great job. Those two together have done some really good things in the last couple of weeks. And throw in those other guys at the receiver position. Phil Freeman makes a good catch over the middle, where he lays out and takes a shot in the ribs.
He sure did.
And and Sean's been doing a very good job the last couple of weeks of spreading the ball around. Harrison Blue has the first touchdown where he swims the guy in coverage and stretches out for it in the back of the end zone.
Thrown right on the button.
27-yarder, and those are 2 big plays in 2 weeks. The 33-yarder to Johnny against S&T, and then the 27-yarder to to Harrison on Saturday. Those are two big plays we've been missing for a number of weeks here, and it's good to see those things. And Chris Smith gets in there and makes some nice catches, and Quentin Reiser and Stewart, and
right.
Sean's done a really good job of targeting 7, 8, 9 guys throughout the course of a game, and that makes, from an offensive standpoint, that makes defenses have to do a lot more things to defend you.
Well, let's talk about and educate the Cardinal fans. And I kept talking because I was on the same page with you.
Yeah.
We get the ball at the end of the ball game. We need to score because we need to put a 2-score game. But we also need to eat clock. And I got Stewart. I laughed because I saw you screaming at him, but he did a magnificent job. Made 3 great runs, and we had a reception there on the out, I believe. You guys were mixing up running that switch route on the outside, and they all stayed in. Yeah, they all stayed in bounds. Let's talk about what we were trying to do on that drive.
Yeah, right before the drive, when that drive started, as we're on the boundary before we took the field there, we're talking to the receivers, Coach Buford and I, talking to receivers about staying in bounds, and Coach Fig and Coach Majors are on the headset talking to guys about staying in bounds, but you didn't see us really. We slowed the pace in a sense, but we didn't take away from our momentum in what we were doing, and we still continued to throw the ball down the field on 3-step on
because you need to score.
Because we needed, the score put it out of reach. They get the ball back, and during that series they got a chance to come down and score again and either tie it or go ahead. So we needed to score. It got down to that last 3rd down where we called timeout. Oh, I believe they called timeout. They started calling timeouts there towards the end of the game to give themselves an opportunity to get the ball back. And we're down, and it's 3rd down and I think 5, and we're on our 12-yard line, I believe, something like that. And so I go in the huddle after or during the timeout, and I ask Sean, what do you like here? He'd been doing such a very good job of managing the game, and he told us the play he likes, and we went with it. And I told Sean, we need to score on this drive. Same thing you just said. We need to score on this drive, but what I want right now is a 1st down, because we got to continue to run the clock out. Because as we all know, crazy things can happen if there's a lot of ticks left on the clock. Right. And Sean did a really nice job. He's looking for John Molson and Phil Freeman on a 3-step combination to his right. Looks over there, and it's not there, but there's no edge over there. So he takes off. He knows he's got at least 5. And then the defense, Chris Stewart is a release, a hot release for us out of the backfield.
Right. Which he's getting better and better at.
Stewie sees Sean take off running, and Stewie blocks one of the outside linebackers, gets him walled off, and then it's just Sean and another linebacker, and Sean beats him to the end zone, and we score. And at that point, you feel pretty good because you're up 2 scores with whatever it was, 1:45 to go, and so no, great execution.
It's a big time drive.
It is. We've had those the last 2 weeks. We've had those sustained drives, those 8, 10, 12, 15 play drives that have equated into scores. And that's the sign of a mature football team, or a football team that has matured.
Right.
We've got a ways to go on some things, but to watch them be able to do that, and they did some of those things in the first half too. There was some 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 play drives in the first half that took us inside the 20-yard line, one time inside the 15, and we just didn't turn them into scores in the first half and on execution things. But proud as heck of our team, and defensively, in the second half, they played extremely, extremely well. We put together 2 defensive games in a row where we've really executed well, and guys have done their responsibility and made some plays. Nelson has a big interception in the first half for 25-yard return, and then Owen Hodges has that interception.
I wish that he got that in. Obviously, I'm biased because he's a Blue Springs guy. You know that. But
you know me, though. I'm telling him after the interception to get down.
Right, yeah.
Because
I understand that.
And I'm running down the boundary so much to the fact that the official gets on me
I saw you.
I'm out in the box.
I thought maybe you go put in a block on him.
And go tackle him. Yeah. Well, from a coaching standpoint, in that situation, you're up 2 scores.
I understand.
And if you intercept it and get down, the game's over, because you can get on it, you can get your victory formation, take a knee, the ball's safe. When that happened with Owen, and then there's 3 or 4 flags on the field after the play, all of the worst things go through your mind about, okay, how's this offsetting? Make sure the officials get it right, that it was after the change of possession.
Right.
There's a lot of human error that can happen there. Or Owen's running down and the ball gets knocked out, and they scoop it and score it. And now it's, an onside kick away. And
I admit I was a fan. I wasn't a coach.
No,
Owen's one of my guys.
I'm with you. No, we preach, and here's what Owen will tell you. And I told him after the game, I said, Owen, did you not? I'm yelling at you to get down. He was, Coach, I was going to score. Because we talk to them so much on defense about defensive score.
Yeah, absolutely.
Defensive score. And, we scored defensively in that game on the safety, on the sack earlier. But, that was in his head. He said, Coach, we don't practice taking a knee after an interception. We practice scoring. Great answer. That's exactly what we practice. That's exactly what we want you to do. In the future, let's get down.
Yeah.
In that situation, but I didn't hold anything against him there, obviously, and was very excited that he made that play to get us out of the game and give us a chance to get in our victory formation and get the W.
Well, a great win against a future conference school, which we really like. Why don't we talk a little bit about the players of the week, because you've nothing but positive.
It was a week when we sat in there yesterday and had a bunch of guys to choose from. We always take nominations from the coaching staff after we get through the film, and I think on all sides of the ball we had at least 3 nominations for each position. And
I bet.
Offensively, a lot of guys did some really good things. The wide receiver group had some nominations. Chris Stewart, Sean Shelton again. Tipton on the offensive line had 2 really good games in a row, and
he has played well.
Yeah, he has. He's one that's been able to, knock on wood, stay healthy and turned into a really good, really consistent player for us. But we went with Sean. Again, that was what the winning vote was. Sean Shelton and the day he had and the way he managed things and, the play he makes to
He's really
put
playing
the thing
well,
out of reach at the end of the game. And then defensively, we had as good a game as we've had since I've been here on the defensive line from a production standpoint. Josh Mathis
playing well.
Played very well. Had a lot of production.
Really handled the middle well.
Yeah, had 4 tackles behind the line of scrimmage. Had a couple sacks and had a big pass breakup.
Yeah.
PBU knocked the ball down at the line of scrimmage on a 3rd down
late
in the game that made them punt and got us the ball back for that final score. And he was a nominee. And another guy on the defensive line, Tyler Bolus, is who we ended up going with, and he was just everywhere. Tyler made all kinds of plays behind the line of scrimmage and made plays and everything, both in the run game and in the pass game. And then Tyler has the sack that gets the safety late in the game that gives us an opportunity to take the lead and start to continue to put some things out of reach for the game. And
well, he pursues. His motor runs. I said 2 weeks ago. Remember, I was really impressed when he ran from sideline to sideline.
Yeah, no, he's been playing very well too, and the linebackers played well at times in the secondary. And
you got a lot of talent in that secondary.
Yeah, we got some young guys.
That might be one of your strengths, Coach.
And Kurt Webster continues to play well, and a lot of really good things there. To only give up whatever it was 30 yards rushing in the game. You just don't see that very often, and so kudos to them on that. But special teams, there were some guys we looked at there too. We went with a guy that we put in on kickoff that went down the last kickoff where we needed to get a big stop and make them drive the ball. Went on the last kickoff and stones a guy, throws him, and goes in and tackles 2 of their guys, one of them being the ball carrier and one of ours. It was just one of those plays you don't see very often. Glenn Whitney is doing a great job for us, in a lot of different areas. He had a very good game offensively too early. Had some really good runs.
He's a man. We stayed at your hotel, and when you were talking to him, you don't always try to stay in the background because I've been there. And you don't need some media guy in the face. But he's a horse.
He's a
horse.
He'd just as soon run over things than run around them, which is what we're trying to get him to do a little bit less of at times. But at
he's
tailback,
going to be a dandy.
Boy, when Coach Weigel told him last week that he was going to work him in on some kickoff stuff, that kid was grinning from ear to ear. So that was good there. During the week, guys working against the other side of the ball, and some guys that are actually doing some good things for us on Saturdays as well this week. And Chris Smith was our offensive work team player of the week, and then defensively Troy Fletcher, who had his probably best week of practice last week from a defensive line position, and we're working him into some things at the defensive end position and have been all year on Saturdays. So those 2 are doing a good job, and our players of the week each week they love it because Hy-Vee is one of our sponsors for our player of the week, and Thursdays all the player of the week guys get to go there for lunch, and so it's a pretty big deal. So I want to thank Hy-Vee too for their commitment to that, and so that's been really good. Play of the game, had some recommendations. Sean's touchdown where he pulls it down at the end. Phil Freeman's catch was unbelievable. It was one of those that I watched and wow!
I went nuts when he
great catch. You watch it on film and he lays completely out. I mean, lays completely out, takes a shot in the ribs and comes down and maintains possession of the football. And so that was a great play. Ended up going with Harrison Blue's touchdown catch where it's a vertical route and he swims the defender and gets vertical.
He's come along too.
He's a guy. There's not too many guys that work harder than him. He'll be the first one to tell you. He's not blessed with maybe some of the speed. He's got more of the speed I played with when I was in college, but he's not blessed with some of the speed.
He's got good hands, though.
He got great hands, but he does so much with his ability.
Right.
Maybe more than anybody, and we don't give him enough credit. And I was really excited to see him get that touchdown. He had a big touchdown catch early in the season. I believe it was against Sterling too, at home in the corner of the end zone. And so that was good to see him get another one there. And hit of the week, we had a couple to choose from there too. Kurt Webster, gets one of their receivers downfield and flips him over.
Oh man! And he was mad because the guy hung on. I mean, it wasn't a dirty play because he doesn't play that way. But I mean to tell you, Kurt will clock you. He clocked this kid, and he was upset that he held on.
Caught the ball, yeah. And I told him jokingly in the team meeting yesterday, hey, Curtis, if that ball comes out, you probably win this award, but he didn't. We actually gave it to Owen Hodges, who hit their quarterback. In the middle of the second half there, and quarterback kind of came staggering off the field for a couple plays, and so two pretty physical players there, and two pretty physical plays to choose from. Went with Owen Hodges.
Well, it was a great week, but I think what we're all about right now here, Jewel, is looking ahead and what can we do to improve and keep those building blocks going. Yeah. And we're going to kind of lump it all together here. One thing I want to mention so I don't forget, and I'll mention it again before we get off the air, it's a 1:30 start against Culver. But I want to talk a little bit about recruiting in these last two games. We could string it where we can win 3 in a row and probably should have won 4 in a row, but that's hindsight. But we get a run.
Yeah.
It makes everything look a lot better. You feel a lot better about the season. You have a good taste in your mouth. You go talk to kids and you talk about we're improving and those building blocks we talk about. Why don't you talk about the next 2 ball games? You don't have to get specific, but just generality.
Right now, as you are each week, it's the next one on your schedule. And Culver Stockton, they've struggled this year on some things, but I look at them on film and offensively. They do some really good things, and they got a accomplished quarterback that throws the ball around. They got a couple tailbacks that can run. They're big up front. They've, for whatever reason, have had a hard time hanging on to the ball sometimes and have put themselves, down early in games, and they've had to throw a lot to get back in it. And defensively, they give you some good looks over there too that make it difficult on you. So, we're going to have to continue the momentum to get a win on Saturday. People will say we should win this one. Well, maybe we should, maybe we shouldn't, but we got to go out and do it at the end of the day.
I mean, that's just typical fan talk. You got to go play.
Exactly. They're doing some really good things. Their new head coach, who took the job over the summers from Michigan State, and has a very good offensive mind, and they'll give us some issues in some areas on Saturday. So, and then we finish up on the road down in Kentucky the next week at Kentucky Wesleyan, another conference opponent. And to be honest with you, I haven't seen him on film or don't know a whole lot about him at this point. But, it would be big for us if we can put 2 more in a row here together to finish the season, with a couple wins in a row and with some momentum going into next year, and kind of start to establish yourself at the Division II level, in your first year. Getting several wins at that level would be huge for us. But the biggest one right now for us is the one coming up on Saturday.
Yeah, and that's a 1:30 start here. Our last home game will be senior night. I know that Professor Cole will have some information about some of the seniors before the game on air, and hopefully a lot of people will follow that. We hope that the broadcast we've been bringing to you has been beneficial in following the Cardinals. We've seen great improvement every ball game. Quite frankly, a ball game. I really like us getting our first win against a future conference opponent. I think that's a real positive. Well, that's it for this edition of Inside the Cardinal Playbook. We'll see you Saturday, last home game here at 1:30.